the relief sought by the applicants falls within this court's exclusive jurisdiction, but disputes the contention that Rule 129I is unconstitutional. It also argues that because of the delay in launching the application, conducting a Section 89 inquiry before the impeachment committee has become legally impossible. Against this factual backdrop, this court was tasked with determining the following. One, whether this court has exclusive jurisdiction to entertain the matter, and if not, whether direct access is warranted. Two, whether procedural issues bar consideration of the merits. Three, if not, whether Rule 129I and the National Assembly's vote declining referral to the impeachment committee are consistent with the Constitution. And four, what remedy is just and equitable. Three separate judgments have been produced in this matter. The first judgment is written by myself and concurred in by Acting Deputy Chief Justice Madlanga, Justice Theron, and Justice Rogers. On exclusive jurisdiction, it finds that the Constitution imposes clear and specific obligations on the National Assembly to ensure executive accountability, to put in place effective mechanisms to maintain oversight of the exercise of national executive authority, and to take appropriate action in holding the President accountable. It finds that the challenge to Rule 129I implicates the obligation to put effective mechanisms in place, and that the challenge to the National Assembly's vote implicates the obligation to hold members of the executive accountable and to take appropriate action against the President. It holds that the fact that the applicants relied on rationality and legality review grounds does not remove it from this court's exclusive jurisdiction. Where a constitutional obligation is implicated, this court has exclusive jurisdiction to hear the matter. The respondents raised other procedural issues which they argue should dispose of the matter, such as delay and mootness. This application was brought nearly 14 months after the National Assembly took its decision in December 2022. This court has previously held that it must be determined first whether delay is unreasonable, and second, whether the interests of justice require that the delay be overlooked. The first judgment finds that the substantial delay, which was not explained, is unreasonable. However, it finds that several factors favor overlooking the delay, including the fact that there is no prejudice to any of the respondents, that this court's ability to adjudicate the matter has not been impaired by the delay, and the tremendous importance of the matter. The first judgment finds that there is a proper basis to overlook the delay in all the circumstances. The question of mootness can relate only to the EFF's attack on the National Assembly's decision on 13 December 2022. Parliament and the ANC argue that the terms of the 6th Parliament has expired, and so the relief sought by the EFF has become moot, as a Section 89 inquiry is now legally impossible. The first judgment finds that nothing precludes the adjudication of the challenge to the rule, as challenges to existing and fully operational statutory provisions can never be considered moot. Functionaries are generally held to enduring legal obligations attaching to their official capacities, despite the succession of incumbents or change in their ranks. Additionally, the process of an impeachment inquiry could take many months. If impeachment proceedings that started in one parliament could not be carried over to the next, it would be practically impossible to initiate and finalize impeachment proceedings. For these reasons, amongst others, the first judgment finds that the challenge to the impugned decision of the National Assembly is not moot. I turn to the merits of the matter. Section 89, subsection 1 of the Constitution contemplates a two-stage process for impeachment. a preliminary inquiry to determine whether a listed ground exists, followed by a decision by the National Assembly on whether or not to remove the president from office. This court has already held that the making of specially tailored rules is obligatory to regulate the process of impeachment under Section 89, subsection 1. The National Assembly did this in passing Rules 129A to 29Q. However, the rules it passes must be effective in ensuring that appropriate action may be taken to hold the president accountable. Rule 129I permits the National Assembly to terminate the impeachment process at a preliminary stage before a full inquiry can be conducted into whether a ground listed in Section 89, subsection 1 exists. This has the effect of foreclosing full engagement with the merits of the motion, stifling informed debate and undermining the values of accountability and transparency that must inform the National Assembly's processes. It is not sufficient for the National Assembly to proceed directly from receipt of an independent panel report to a vote and thereby suppress an impeachment motion that discloses prima facie the existence of a ground under Section 89, subsection 1. The National Assembly is required to do more than merely table, debate, and vote on such a substantiated motion. The rule is therefore inconsistent with the Constitution and invalid. The first judgment finds that the vote must follow in the rule's footsteps. Legally, the vote and the rule are on the same constitutional footing, and so the one must follow the other. The vote was influenced by a material error of law. It is therefore inconsistent with the Constitution and must accordingly fall. In respect of a just and equitable remedy, the first judgment finds that in this matter, a limited severance coupled with reading in is necessary to correct the rule in compliance with the Constitution, to remain in effect until the National Assembly corrects the defect in the affected rule. It would also be appropriate to refer the report to the impeachment committee, consistent with the reading in remedy ordered. The first judgment finds that the EFF has been successful and should be awarded its costs, though only the cost of 2, not 3 counsel, as it asked. The ATM did not seek costs. The second judgment, written by my brother Kola Benjay, with Matopo and JJ and Sikobin AJ concurring, takes a different approach to the issues of exclusive jurisdiction and the constitutionality of Rule 129I. The second judgment locates its assessment of the issues by identifying the carefully structured interconnectedness and balancing of majoritarian and counter-majoritarian provisions in the Constitution. In doing so, it explores the disenfranchisement of the vast majority of South Africans prior to 1994 and recognizes that majoritarian measures are often democracy-enhancing and may, where they appear in the Constitution, represent a deliberate location of political power by the drafters of the Constitution. It is a choice courts are obliged to respect. In support of this stance, the second judgment cites this court's judgment in Ex parte Chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly in re certification of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, in which it held that this court has no power, no mandate, and no right to express any view on the political choices made by the Constitutional Assembly in drafting the new text. On the basis of these principles, the second judgment agrees that this court's exclusive jurisdiction over the challenge to Rule 129I is engaged, but for different reasons, different to those advanced in the first judgment. Relying on this court's decision, in EFF2, the 2017 judgment. The second judgment finds that the only obligation imposed on the National Assembly by Section 89 is the responsibility to develop rules to facilitate the removal of the president. However, it notes that any decision the National Assembly takes in this respect falls wholly within its discretion.